There is a quote that has followed LaGuardia Airport like a shadow for over a decade. In 2014, Joe Biden, then serving as Vice President of the United States, landed at LaGuardia after returning from a trip abroad and said, publicly and without hesitation, that the experience reminded him of traveling in a third world country. It was a blunt assessment. It was also, by virtually every measure available at the time, entirely and uncomfortably accurate. LaGuardia International Airport was, by the consensus of travel journalists, aviation industry professionals, frequent flyers, and the general public alike, the worst major airport in the United States. The terminals were built in the 1960s and had received only the maintenance needed to keep them from falling down. The roofs leaked, the carpets were worn through, the ceilings were low, the signage was confusing. The road network surrounding LaGuardia, a narrow peninsula jutting into Flushing Bay in Queens, was so consistently gridlocked that arriving 2 hours before a domestic flight felt optimistic rather than cautious. And unlike virtually every other major airport serving a global city of New York's stature, LaGuardia had no rail connection to the urban transit network whatsoever. Getting to LGA meant a car, a taxi, a ride share, or a bus, all trapped in the same traffic as everything else on the road. For years, the response to these problems was a combination of frustration and resignation. Everyone agreed the airport was bad. No one seemed able to do anything about it. The political will, the financial architecture, and the engineering ambition required to genuinely fix LaGuardia, not patch it, not renovate it incrementally, but actually fix it from the ground up, appeared to be beyond what any combination of public and private actors could assemble. And then, against all expectations, they did it. New York pulled off one of the most dramatic and consequential airport transformations in American history. $8 billion, a complete ground-up reconstruction. The old terminals, the ones that Biden and millions of frustrated travelers had endured for decades, were demolished. In their place rose a unified, architecturally distinguished, operationally coherent airport that has since won international design awards and generated a reaction from passengers that LaGuardia had never previously inspired. Genuine admiration. Welcome. In this video, we go inside the full story of the LGA Rebirth, the engineering decisions, the architectural achievements, the financing structure, and the unresolved questions that even $8 billion could not fully answer. Because the new LaGuardia is genuinely extraordinary. But extraordinary and complete are not the same thing. And the gap between them matters enormously for the 30 million passengers who use this airport every year. The original LaGuardia terminal complex was a collection of separately developed buildings that had grown without any unified design vision. Terminal A, Terminal B, Terminal C, and the Delta Shuttle Terminal were effectively separate airports sharing a runway system. Getting between them required going outside, finding ground transportation, and navigating the same gridlocked roads that made getting to the airport a trial. For connecting passengers, LaGuardia was a genuine logistical obstacle course. The buildings were structurally obsolete. The ceiling heights appropriate for 1960s travel volumes were inadequate for a modern airport processing tens of millions of passengers, with contemporary security requirements and contemporary standards of spatial comfort. The mechanical systems, heating, cooling, electrical, plumbing, were aging in ways that produced the chronic failures giving LaGuardia its reputation for leaking roofs and broken infrastructure. These were not problems that could be solved by renovation. They required replacement. The master plan committed to exactly that. Full replacement, phased carefully to keep the airport operational throughout construction. The organizing principle of the new LaGuardia was unification, replacing the fragmented multi-building complex with a coherent, connected campus organized around two anchor terminals, Terminal B and Terminal C, linked by a common infrastructure spine and designed to function as a single integrated facility rather than a collection of separate buildings sharing a postcode. Terminal B is the centerpiece of the reconstruction and, by any reasonable assessment, one of the most architecturally distinguished airport terminals built in the United States in the 21st century. The project cost approximately $4 billion and produced a terminal spanning 1.3 million square feet, a facility of genuine scale, designed with the spatial generosity and quality of materials that immediately distinguishes it from the building it replaced. Terminal B has received multiple major architecture and design awards, recognition that reflects something more than subjective preference. The terminal is genuinely beautiful in ways that matter to the actual experience of being inside it. The most striking engineering achievement of Terminal B is the pair of pedestrian skybridges that connect the main terminal building to the concourses beyond. These bridges span directly over active aircraft taxiways, the paved surfaces that aircraft use to move between the runway and their gates. Passengers walking through the skybridges are literally overhead of commercial jets moving below them. The engineering required to build structures of this kind, spanning the required distances, bearing the loads of thousands of daily passengers, meeting the safety requirements of proximity to active aircraft operations, and doing all of this while the taxiways beneath remained in continuous use throughout construction is genuinely impressive. The skybridges solve a problem that was fundamental to the old LaGuardia: the impossibility of moving passengers between the terminal and the gates without competing with ground vehicle traffic. In the old design, the connection between terminal and concourse required ground-level passages that created conflicts with airfield operations and contributed to the general congestion and confusion of the original airport. The skybridges lift passenger movement entirely out of the ground-level plane, creating a clean separation between passenger flow and aircraft movement below. The result is operationally cleaner and one of the more memorable visual experiences in American domestic aviation. The view from those bridges, looking down at the aircraft and out across Flushing Bay toward the Manhattan skyline, is something passengers remember. Inside Terminal B, the spatial experience is defined by the qualities most conspicuously absent from the old building: light, volume, and visual coherence. Floor-to-ceiling windows run the length of the main terminal hall, flooding the space with natural light and giving passengers unobstructed views of the airfield. The ceiling heights are generous, the materials are considered. The retail and dining program features New York-focused vendors, giving the terminal a commercial character that reflects the city it serves, rather than the generic airport mall aesthetic that defines so many American terminal food and beverage offerings. The security processing areas have been designed with the throughput demands of a high-volume domestic terminal explicitly in mind. The checkpoint configurations allow for the kind of efficient passenger flow that the old Terminal B, with its cramped and poorly organized security lanes, was structurally incapable of providing. The gate areas themselves are wide, well-lit, and equipped with the power outlets, seating variety, and connectivity infrastructure that contemporary travelers require, and the old LaGuardia conspicuously failed to deliver. On the other side of the unified campus, Terminal C represents Delta Airlines' $4 billion commitment to LaGuardia as its primary New York domestic hub. The Delta investment produced a facility defined by technology integration and passenger service infrastructure. The automated check-in pods on the Terminal C departure level reduce wait times and concentrate staff resources at the points where human interaction adds real value. The baggage handling systems are built for the throughput that a high-volume Delta hub requires, with automation reducing error rates and handling times that were persistent pain points at the old airport. The crown jewel of Terminal C is the Delta Sky Club, the airline's premium lounge, which at LaGuardia Terminal C reaches a scale that Delta has described as the largest sky club in the world. The facility spans tens of thousands of square feet and offers premium lounge amenities, dining, spa services, private workspaces, outdoor terraces that were previously unavailable at LaGuardia at any scale. And yet, for all the genuine transformation the $8 billion reconstruction has delivered, the new LaGuardia exists within constraints that no amount of architectural excellence can eliminate. The most debated and most consequential is the ground transportation problem. LaGuardia sits on a peninsula. The roads leading to and from the airport are few, narrow by the standards of a major international airport, and shared with the general traffic of one of the most congested urban road networks in the country. The construction of new terminals has done nothing to expand the road network or reduce competition for lane space. A passenger arriving at gleaming new Terminal B on a Friday afternoon in a taxi is still subject to the same traffic conditions that made LaGuardia infamous before the reconstruction. The original plan to address this was an AirTrain connection, a dedicated automated rail link that would connect LaGuardia to the New York City subway system, giving passengers a traffic-independent transit option for the first time in the airport's history. The AirTrain LGA project was developed, planned, and advanced through early approval stages before being canceled in 2021, following a review that concluded the proposed routing would require passengers to make an inconvenient transfer and did not justify the cost and construction disruption involved. The cancellation was controversial and remains so. Aviation analysts and urban transit advocates have consistently argued that LaGuardia's lack of a direct rail connection is the single most significant remaining vulnerability in the airport's infrastructure, and that no amount of terminal modernization can substitute for the travel time reduction and reliability that a dedicated rail link would provide. The cancellation did not resolve the underlying problem. It simply means the problem has not been solved, and that any future solution will require a different and almost certainly more expensive approach than the one that was canceled. The financial architecture of the reconstruction also carries questions that deserve examination alongside the architectural achievements. The $8 billion project was financed through a public-private partnership structure, combining public infrastructure investment with private airline capital. Most significantly, the consortium that developed Terminal B and Delta's investment in Terminal C. P3 financing allows large investments to proceed without the full cost appearing on public balance sheets, which is politically attractive. It also creates long-term financial obligations in the form of lease payments and facility fees that flow through airline cost structures and eventually reach ticket prices. Industry watchdogs and airline financial analysts have raised consistent concerns about fee levels at LaGuardia following the reconstruction. The cost of servicing the debt incurred to build world-class infrastructure must be recovered somewhere, and the mechanism of recovery in airport finance runs through the fees charged to airlines. When those fees are high, as they are at LaGuardia, the pressure on airline cost structures is real and eventually visible in ticket prices. The airspace constraint that has always defined LaGuardia's operational ceiling has not been altered by the reconstruction. LaGuardia operates under some of the most restrictive airspace management constraints in the United States, a consequence of its position within the tri-airport New York metropolitan airspace shared with JFK and Newark Liberty. The runway configuration limits the number of aircraft movements the airport can accommodate and makes the airport disproportionately vulnerable to weather-related delays. When a storm reduces visibility or forces runway closures at LaGuardia, the cascade of delays reflects the structural reality of a runway system with no buffer. Passengers waiting out a weather delay in the new Terminal B are doing so in a vastly more comfortable environment than their predecessors endured. The lounges are better, the food is better, the seating is better. The views across Flushing Bay, when the weather clears, are genuinely beautiful. None of that changes the operational reality that the airport's runways and the airspace above them define a hard ceiling on what the terminal's capacity can achieve. What the $8 billion LGA Rebirth accomplished is, measured against where the airport started, genuinely remarkable. It transformed the most criticized airport in the United States into a facility that receives architectural recognition and genuine passenger satisfaction. It replaced buildings that had become national embarrassments with buildings that are genuine assets to the city. It unified a fragmented campus into a coherent hub. It demonstrated that even the most logistically and politically complex airport reconstruction imaginable can be executed when the commitment, financing, and engineering talent are assembled at sufficient scale. What it did not do, and what no terminal reconstruction alone could do, is solve the ground transportation problem outside the airport's boundary or expand the runways within it. The new LaGuardia is a masterpiece of airport architecture, operating within constraints that its architects could design around, but not design away. Whether New York eventually finds the will and resources to address those remaining constraints, the rail connection that was canceled, the runway capacity that cannot be expanded, is the open question that the $8 billion did not answer. Drop a comment below and tell us, do you think a world-class terminal is worth $8 billion if there is still no train connecting it to the city? Subscribe to Mega Airport Works and stay with us as we track the biggest mega projects on Earth.